A single candle flame illuminates a torn edge of parchment on an old wooden table. The rest of the map is lost to shadow. The flame gutters, and the edge begins to curl to ash. What happens when a civilization is not just forgotten, but deliberately unmade? Akhetaten, the sun god's vanished city. For over 1,000 years, the rhythm of Egypt was eternal. The Nile flooded, the priests chanted in the gloom of Karnak, and the pantheon of gods was as fixed as the stars. Then, a pharaoh turned heretic. Amenhotep IV shattered this cosmic order. He changed his name to Akhetaten, declared the sun disk Aten the one true god, and abandoned the sacred capital of Thebes. He marched his court into the stark, sun-baked desert bay, now known as Amarna, and built Akhetaten, the horizon of the Aten, from scratch. It was a city of open courtyards and light, a physical manifesto of a radical new truth, where art contorted into strange, elongated forms, and the old deities were banished. The discovery of this city by Flinders Petrie in the 1880 seconds was not of ruins, but of a frozen revolution. Petrie's trowel uncovered a grand, rigid city plan and workshops filled with the distinctive, naturalistic Amarna-style art. But Akhenaten's revolution died with him. His successors, led by Tutankhamun, launched a campaign of annihilation so complete it was called Damnatio Memoriae, the condemnation of memory. Statues of Akhenaten were smashed, his city was dismantled stone by stone, and his name was chiseled from the king lists. The sands reclaimed the horizon he built. Akhetaten's erasure was a surgical strike on history itself, a warning from the priests of the old gods that some truths are too dangerous to be remembered. It shows us that the past can be edited, and that the most profound revolutions can be buried under the very desert that witnessed them. The kingdom of Yam, oasis of the sands. South of Egypt lay the endless, roaring emptiness of the Sahara, the Red Land, a place of demons and death in the Egyptian mind. Yet tantalizing fragments survived in tomb inscriptions, tales of the wealthy kingdom of Yam, a land of incense and cattle, reached by epic 8-month caravan journeys. It was a cartographic ghost, a place of legend at the edge of the known world. For centuries, scholars argued it must lie deep in Sudan or Chad. The truth was far more profound and humbling. The discovery of Yam was not the finding of pyramids or palaces, but the reading of climate. In the hyper-arid wastes of the Libyan desert, at places like Nabta Playa and the Gilf Kebir, archaeologists and geologists found the bones of a green world. They uncovered stone circles older than Stonehenge, deep, fossilized water wells, and vast galleries of rock art depicting lush savannas, giraffes, and herds of cattle being watered. Yam was not a distant kingdom. It was the memory of a lost Sahara, a green Sahara that was a cradle of sophisticated pastoral cultures over 5,000 years ago. Its erasure was not political, but environmental. As the climate shifted around 3,500 BCE, the rains failed, the grasslands died, and the desert advanced. The people of Yam did not vanish, they migrated. They likely carried their knowledge, their cattle-herding traditions, and their gods with them to the one permanent river they knew, the Nile. Yam's transformation is fundamental. Its people and their deep environmental wisdom likely formed the very substratum of pharaonic civilization. It teaches us that the greatest civilizations often rise from the ashes of lost worlds, and that a map's empty space can hold the memory of an entire ecosystem. Tartessos, the silver city at the edge of the world. To the Phoenician sailors of Tyre and Sidon, the lands beyond the Pillars of Hercules were the terrifying realm of the unknown. But their logs spoke of a river-mouth kingdom of staggering wealth named Tarshish, a source of legendary silver. The Greeks called it Tartessos, and its wise, long-lived king Arganthonios became a figure of myth. For the metal-hungry empires of the Mediterranean, Tartessos was an El Dorado at the sunset edge of the world. Then, around 500 BCE, the mentions ceased. The vibrant trade stopped. Tartessos vanished. Its location became one of antiquity's great puzzles. The breakthrough came not from a single grand city, but from a network of sacred sites in southwestern Spain. At Cancho Roano and Casas del Turuñuelo, archaeologists uncovered monumental, orientalizing architecture and stunning votive treasures. bronze figurines, gold jewelry of hybrid design, and inscriptions in a unique, still undeciphered script. This was the material culture of Tartessos, a brilliant, hybrid society, born of Phoenician trade and native Iberian genius. But the archaeology also revealed a layer of definitive violence, a thick stratum of silt and fire. The end of Tartessos was catastrophic. The leading theory points to a series of colossal seismic events and tsunamis, possibly triggered by a major earthquake on the Azores Gibraltar Transform Fault. Its ports were swallowed by tidal mudflats. Its inland centers were destroyed. This natural cataclysm erased the first complex civilization of the Atlantic West. Its disappearance created a power vacuum that reshaped the ancient world, allowing Carthage to dominate and redirecting Iberian history. Tartessos thus stands as a monument to the fragility of even the wealthiest culture when the very earth beneath it revolts. The Minoan Palace of Zakros, the lost harbour of the labyrinth. The Minoan civilization of Crete was a thalassocracy, a maritime empire of stunning artistry and grace. Its heart was the labyrinthine palace of Knossos, but on the island's far eastern tip, facing the open Libyan Sea, lay its vital, secretive lung, the palace and port of Zakros. While Knossos dealt with the Aegean world, Zakros was the gateway to Egypt, the Levant, and beyond a secure, hidden harbour for the most precious trade. Then, in the mid-15th century BCE, it ceased to exist. Unlike other Minoan sites, it was never rebuilt, never looted. It simply slept. The Greek archaeologist Nikolaos Platon found it in 1961, guided by local tales of a place with many hollows. What he excavated was a time capsule. The Palace of Zakros was perfectly preserved, abandoned in haste. Its workshops held unfinished vases. Its archive of Linear A tablets lay where they fell. Its treasury contained raw ivory tusks and exquisite rock crystal ritual vessels. Here was a palace, frozen at the moment of its daily life. The cause of its erasure is etched in geology. The colossal eruption of the Thera volcano, 70 miles to the north, sent tsunamis racing across the Aegean. Zakros, nestled in its narrow coastal valley, would have been funneled and inundated by a wall of water. The lower floors were smashed, the port destroyed. The palace was never reoccupied. The loss of this critical trade hub was a death blow to the already weakened Minoan network, making it easy prey for the rising Mycenaeans. Zakros is not just a ruin, it is a snapshot of a specific Tuesday afternoon in the Bronze Age, a silent witness to how a single geological event can erase a city's future while preserving its final moment. Nia, the sand-embedded kingdom of the Taklamakan. The Silk Road was not a single path, but a web of choices across some of Earth's most lethal terrain. Along its southern arm, skirting the dread Taklamakan Desert, the place of no return, bloomed fragile oasis kingdoms. One of the most mysterious was Nia. In the first centuries CE, it was a vibrant outpost of the Jingzhou people, a melting pot of Indian, Chinese, and Central Asian influences. Then, the rivers that fed it shifted. The dunes advanced. Nia was swallowed. For centuries, it existed only as a name in Chinese chronicles and a haunting presence in local folklore. Its discovery was the work of the relentless explorer-archaeologist Aurel Stein. In 1901, following the dry bed of the Nia River, he was led by hunters to wooden posts protruding from a dune. He uncovered a house, and inside, a bureaucratic nightmare frozen in time. A deceased official sat where he had fallen, his wooden administrative tablets, written in the Kharosthi script, still by his side. Stein found elaborately carved furniture, brilliantly coloured textiles, and even ancient food stores. He had found not a royal tomb, but a middle-class home, perfectly freeze-dried by the hyper-arid desert. Nia's erasure was a slow, suffocating process of environmental change. As the climate dried, the glaciers feeding the rivers shrank, and the desert won. The people of Nia packed their most precious belongings, sealed their doors, and walked away, leaving a ghost town for the sand to claim. Its value is in its stunning mundanity. It offers an unparalleled, intimate portrait of daily Silk Road life. Its legal disputes, its tax records, its cultural hybridity. Nia teaches us that history is not only made by kings and battles, but also by the struggle for water, and that the most complete erasures are often performed not by man, but by a changing wind. Timgad, the perfect grid that the sands forgot. In the year 100 CE, the Roman Emperor Trajan ordered the foundation of a colony for veterans in the remote highlands of Numidia, modern-day Algeria. This was to be more than a military outpost. It was to be a perfect, uncompromising imprint of Roman order upon the African landscape. They laid out Thamugadi, later called Timgad, as a precise square, a grid of streets intersecting at perfect right angles, a tiny Rome in the sand. For centuries, it thrived as a beacon of civic life, with its library, its theatre, its grand arches. Then, the empire crumbled. Timgad faded, was briefly reborn as a Christian and then a Byzantine centre, and was finally abandoned after the Arab conquest. The Sahara, patient and inexorable, began to bury it. For over a millennium, it slept under red dust. Its rediscovery in the 18th century by the explorer James Bruce, who saw only a colossal arch, was a prelude. Full excavation revealed the city's stunning preservation. The Cardo and Decumanus stretched out in ruler straight lines. The theatre's seats were intact. The library's niches for scrolls stood empty. Timgad was a textbook diagram of Roman urban planning, a monument to a civilization's belief in geometry as a moral force. Its erasure was the antithesis of its founding, slow, formless, and natural. There was no cataclysm, only the silent, grain-by-grain work of the desert wind filling its perfect streets. Timgad's transformation is a profound meditation on entropy. It shows how the most rigid human order eventually yields to the chaos of nature, and how a city built as an eternal idea can become a monument to time's patient, obliterating power. Muziris, the spice port that vanished from the ledgers. In the docks of Rome's Red Sea ports, one destination commanded both awe and anxiety: Muziris. This Indian port on the Malabar coast was the source of an empire's decadence: black pepper, ivory, silks, and gems. A single surviving papyrus contract details a loan for a cargo so valuable it was insured against the perils of the sea. For Rome, Muziris was a siphon of silver and gold, a place of almost mythical wealth. Then, by the 6th century CE, it disappears from all records. The trade routes reconfigure. Muziris becomes a ghost in the ledger books. Its physical discovery has been a century-long puzzle. Clues emerged from Indian literature and scattered Roman coins, but the location remained elusive. The key was in the mud. Geological surveys and excavations around the town of Patanam in Kerala revealed ancient wharves, Roman pottery, amphorae for wine and olive oil, and a wealth of black peppercorns. Most tellingly, they found a layer of alluvial silt several meters thick. Muziris had not been sacked, it had been drowned. A catastrophic flood of the Periyar River in the 14th century, possibly combined with a tsunami, silted up its crucial lagoon and harbour, rendering it useless for ocean-going trade. The port that fueled Roman banquets was killed by a shift in hydrology. Its erasure reshaped global economics, forcing the spice trade onto new, overland paths and contributing to the Mediterranean's economic isolation in the early Middle Ages. Muziris reminds us that the nodes of globalization are perilously fragile, and that a change in a river's course can alter the destiny of continents. The Mound of Nagar, forgotten capital of the Mitanni. In the diplomatic chess game of the Late Bronze Age, between the Egyptians and Hittites, stood the formidable kingdom of Mitanni. Ruled by a chariot-riding aristocracy with Indo-European names, it was a military powerhouse that controlled the fertile plains of northern Syria. Its kings married Egyptian pharaohs and treated with Hittite emperors as equals. Yet, its capital, Washukani, was a ghost. References to it abound in the Amarna letters and Hittite archives, but its location was lost. The great mound of Tel Brak in northeastern Syria had long been known, but its identity was masked by time. Excavations revealed a city of staggering scale and antiquity, but a key discovery in the 1,980 seconds provided the name, a temple dedication to a Mitanni king. Tel Brak was not just any city, it was Naga, a major administrative centre, and likely was Washukani itself, or its direct predecessor. The city displayed a stunning blend of Mesopotamian and Hurrian influences, with monumental gates and temples. Its erasure was systematic and violent. In the 13th century BCE, the Assyrian king Shalmaneser I launched a devastating campaign, boasting of razing Washukani and sowing salt over its ruins. The Mitanni state, already weakened, collapsed. The Assyrians did not just conquer the city, they annihilated its memory from the landscape, ensuring their rival's capital would not just fall, but be forgotten. The discovery of Nagar, Washukani resurrects a lost superpower, a crucial buffer state, whose destruction opened the direct and brutal confrontation between Egypt and Hatti, reshaping the ancient Near East. It is a testament to the brutal efficacy of ancient propaganda. To truly win, you must erase your enemy's past. The library of the Villa of the Papyri, the unreadable library. In the opulent seaside suburb of Herculaneum, a Roman aristocrat built a villa of unparalleled luxury. It was a palace of philosophy and art, filled with bronze and marble masterpieces. But its true heart was a library. In 79 CE, the eruption of Mount Vesuvius did not just bury Herculaneum in ash, it hit it with a pyroclastic surge of superheated gas and mud that carbonized everything instantly. The villa was entombed under 30 meters of solid, rock-hard tuff. Rediscovered in the 18th century by tunnel-digging treasure hunters, its sculptures were hauled away, but the lumps of carbon found in one room, initially thought to be logs or peat, were mostly ignored. They were the library's scrolls, baked into brittle, blackened cylinders. Here was the only surviving library from the classical world, a direct link to lost works of Greek and Roman philosophy, science, and poetry. But it was utterly unreadable. Unrolling them meant turning them to dust. The erasure here was a cruel paradox. Perfect preservation paired with total illegibility. For centuries, they were ghost books. Modern technology, multispectral imaging, and virtual unwrapping software has begun to peer inside the carbon, letter by letter. The transformation is a resurrection in slow motion. We are now reading words unseen for 2 millennia, recovering the thoughts of Epicurus and the lost poems of Sappho. This library's story is one of a double erasure, first by volcano, then by the limits of human technology. Its slow return from the void is a promise that not all losses are permanent, and that the past sometimes waits in perfect silence for the future to learn how to listen. Paititi, the last city of gold. When the Spanish conquistadors crushed the Inca Empire, they heard a persistent, tormenting whisper. To the east, in the cloud forests beyond the Andes, lay Paititi, a last refuge of the Inca, where the temples were still sheathed in gold and the Sapa Inca ruled in exile. It became the ultimate El Dorado, driving men to madness and death in the green hell of the Amazon for centuries. It was a cartographic fantasy, a place of desperation and greed drawn onto maps based on rumor and indigenous stories. The discovery of Paititi is not an archaeological one, but a psychological and historical revelation. As explorers and archaeologists pushed into the Peruvian and Bolivian Amazon, they did not find a city of gold, but they found something more real. Vast, complex geoglyphs carved into the earth, monumental platforms, and sophisticated road networks in regions like the Madre de Dios. These were the works of the Cultura del Piedemonte, complex societies that interacted with the Inca, but were not them. Paititi, the legend, was likely a composite, a distortion of real trade networks, remote Inca outposts, and the myths of several Amazonian peoples. Its erasure from rational maps was necessary. It was never a single place to be found. Yet, its power transformed geography. It drew maps that filled the blank space of South America with monstrous rivers and golden cities. It fueled the colonial imagination, and it continues to inspire exploration. Paititi's transformation is from a phantom city to a symbol of the uncharted, a reminder that the most potent erasures are sometimes of things that never physically existed, yet which change the course of history by the sheer power of their allure. The sunken cities of the Gulf of Cambay. In the winter of 2001, Indian oceanographers, surveying for pollution in the Gulf of Cambay, detected unusual, geometric sonar images on the seafloor. What they found sparked one of the most controversial discoveries of the 21st century. The the outlines of vast, submerged urban structures, walls, staircases, and what appeared to be a granary at a depth of 40 meters. Dredging brought up wood samples that were controversially carbon dated to around 7,500 BCE. If valid, this would push complex urban life in India back thousands of years before the Indus Valley civilization, rewriting human history. The claim was met with immediate and fierce skepticism from mainstream archaeologists, who cited natural geological formations, the unreliability of the dredged artifacts' context, and the immense depth, suggesting a time frame that clashed with known sea level rise models. The Cambay cities sit in a purgatory between discovery and dismissal. Their erasure, if they are man-made, was caused by the relentless post-glacial sea level rise that drowned continental shelves worldwide around 10,000 years ago. This places them in the realm of proto-civilizations, like the theoretical Kumari Kandam or the inundated landscapes of Doggerland. Whether a revolutionary truth or a sedimentary illusion, their story transforms our understanding of erasure itself. It highlights how the most profound losses may lie not in deserts, but under seas, and how the scientific process itself can oscillate between revelation and rejection, proving that some maps remain blank not for lack of looking, but for lack of consensus on what we see. The Lost Army of Cambyses. In 525 BCE, the Persian Emperor Cambyses II, flush with his conquest of Egypt, sought to extend his dominion south. According to Herodotus, he sent a massive army of 50,000 men from Thebes to subdue the Oracle of Amun at the Siwa oasis. The army marched into the great sand sea of the western desert and vanished without a trace. For centuries, the story was dismissed as a Greek myth, a cautionary tale about hubris. The desert, it seemed, had consumed them completely. Then, in 1996, a team led by archaeologists, twin brothers Angelo and Alfredo Castiglioni, announced a breathtaking find. In a remote area near the Pharaoh oasis, they uncovered hundreds of human bones, Persian-style bronze weapons, a silver bracelet, and earrings dating to the Achaemenid period. They believed they had found the lost army, wiped out not by the oracle's magic, but by a catastrophic Khamsin sandstorm. The discovery was met with global fascination and immediate academic doubt. Critics argued the artifacts were scattered over time, not from a single catastrophic event, and could be from a smaller, later caravan. The lost army remains in limbo, a tantalizing, probable, but unproven graveyard. Its erasure, if the story is true, was the ultimate demonstration of the Sahara's power, to swallow a conquering empire whole, leaving no monument, no tomb, just scattered metal and sun-bleached bone. This story transforms a Herodotean fable into a possible, haunting reality. It teaches us that the desert can be the most efficient historian of all, erasing not with malice, but with an indifferent, final silence. The island of High Brazil. Off the west coast of Ireland, ancient maps for over 5 centuries depicted a mysterious circular island shrouded in mist. High Brazil. It was said to appear only once every 7 years, a place of an advanced civilization or eternal happiness. Cartographers from the 14th to the 19th century placed it faithfully on charts, sometimes with the note, "the Isle of the Blessed." Sailors reported sighting it, only for it to vanish as they approached. It was a persistent phantom, a fixture of the maritime imagination. Its discovery was its final scientific erasure. As navigational technology improved with chronometers and precise sextants in the 18th and 19th centuries, expeditions specifically sought it out and found nothing. The last formal sighting claim was in 1872. The island was gradually removed from Admiralty charts. High Brazil was erased by cartography itself, a victim of its own increasing accuracy. Its transformation is from a physical place on parchment to a purely mythical one in folklore. It represents a different kind of loss, the loss of the unknown from our maps. When every inch of the ocean was surveyed by satellite, the space for such phantoms vanished. High Brazil's true legacy is as a symbol of the human need for the unexplored, a blank space on the map where wonder and story could reside. Its removal marks the end of an age of cartographic romance, proving that sometimes the most important places a map can hold are the ones that aren't really there. The city of Iram of the Pillars. In the empty quarter of the Arabian desert, the Quran tells of a people called the Ad, who grew arrogant and built a magnificent city named Iram, with lofty pillars, the like of which were not produced in all the land. For their sins, God erased them, burying the city under the sands. For over a millennium, Iram was a purely scriptural mystery, a lesson in divine retribution. Then, in the early 1992, a team using NASA Space Shuttle radar imagery and following up with ground surveys in Oman identified a network of ancient caravan routes converging on a location near the modern town of Shiza. Excavations revealed a substantial fortress settlement from the 1 St. 5th to 8th centuries CE, built atop a massive limestone cavern, a natural sinkhole that provided water. This was Ubar, a legendary frankincense trading hub. Many scholars and the discoverers themselves argued this was the historical kernel of Iram of the Pillars. The city's end was dramatic. The limestone roof of the cavern holding its water supply collapsed, swallowing parts of the fortress. The desert then did the rest. Iram's erasure was thus a potent combination of geological accident and environmental change, morphing over centuries into a powerful moral allegory. The discovery transforms a tale of divine punishment into a human story of ecological vulnerability. It shows how a real catastrophe, the loss of a vital water source, can, over time, become a mythic erasure, and how the desert serves as the perfect canvas for turning history into parable. The land of Punt. For the ancient Egyptians, the land of Punt was not a mystery. It was a trading partner, a source of divine wonder. Expeditions dispatched by pharaohs like Hatshepsut returned with frankincense and myrrh trees, ivory, gold, exotic animals, and incense. It was described as the God's Land, a place of abundance and ancestral connection. The Egyptians meticulously recorded these voyages on temple walls at Deir el-Bahari, showing the strange houses on stilts and the robust Queen of Punt. Yet, they never recorded its precise location. With the decline of the New Kingdom, the knowledge faded. Punt vanished from the Egyptian world, becoming a half-remembered paradise. Its modern discovery has been a process of deduction, not excavation. Scholars have proposed locations from Eritrea and Somalia to the Arabian Peninsula, based on the goods traded, which point to the Horn of Africa, southern Red Sea region, and the flora and fauna depicted. The discovery of Punt is thus an act of scholarly triangulation, placing it not as a single city, but as a region or a network of ports. Its erasure was a consequence of changing political and trade dynamics. As Egyptian power waned, and new intermediaries, like the Sabaeans of Arabia, controlled the incense trade, the direct route and the specific knowledge of Punt were lost. It was erased by economic realignment. Punt's transformation is from a real, vibrant trading partner to a mythical golden age. It reminds us that geography is defined by relationship, and when that relationship ends, even the most well-known lands can fade back into the realm of legend, their locations becoming just another blank space on the mental map. The Kingdom of Aksum's Lost Port. The Aksumite Empire of the Ethiopian highlands was one of the great powers of the ancient world, a peer of Rome and Persia, trading gold, ivory, and exotic animals across the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. Its inland capital at Aksum, with its towering stele, is famous. But a maritime empire needs a port. Classical geographers wrote of Adulis, Aksum's primary harbour on the Red Sea coast. After the 7th century CE, following the rise of Islam and shifts in trade, Aksum declined and Adulis was abandoned. Its location, though generally known, was lost to detailed memory, buried under coastal sediments. Early modern travellers identified ruins near the modern village of Zula in Eritrea as Adulis, but systematic understanding was elusive. Recent excavations have revealed a vast, cosmopolitan port city with Roman pottery, Indian beads, and its own monumental architecture. They also revealed its dramatic end, evidence of a massive tsunami that struck in the mid-4th century CE, destroying parts of the city. While rebuilt, this catastrophe was a profound shock. The final erasure, however, came from silt. The port, reliant on a complex system of canals from seasonal rivers, eventually choked on its own alluvial deposits, compounded by regional economic decline. The discovery of tsunami evidence transforms our understanding of Aksum's history, introducing a sudden, violent, natural disaster into its narrative. The port's fate is a double erasure, first by a cataclysmic wave, and then by the slow, suffocating work of river silt. It is a lesson in how environmental and economic pressures can conspire to remove even the most vital gateways of an empire from both the landscape and history. The Helike Delta Shift. In the winter of 373 BCE, the Greek city-state of Helike, a prominent member of the Achaean League and a venerable center of worship to Poseidon, was utterly destroyed in a single night. Ancient writers like Pausanias described a horrific catastrophe: immense earthquakes, followed by a colossal tsunami from the Corinthian Gulf that submerged the entire city. All its inhabitants perished. For centuries, Helike became a moral lesson and a tourist attraction for Roman travelers, who reported seeing bronze statues still visible beneath the water. Then, the sediments of the coastal plain did their work, and even the underwater ruins vanished from sight. Helike became a purely textual ghost. Its rediscovery is a masterpiece of interdisciplinary sleuthing. In the late 20th century, archaeologists combining ancient texts with geological core samples pinpointed its location not in the sea, but several kilometers inland, buried under meters of deltaic silt. In 2001, they finally found it: the ruins of classical Helike, with walls, pottery, and coins encased in a lagoonal layer, proof of catastrophic subsidence and tsunami inundation. Its erasure was a textbook example of co-seismic coastal subsidence. The land itself dropped during the earthquake, allowing the sea to rush in permanently before river deposits sealed it. Helike's transformation is from a classical cautionary tale to a precise geological case study. It provides the literal blueprint for the Atlantis myth, which Plato wrote about just 50 years later, and serves as a stark, real-world warning of the volatile tectonics of the Mediterranean. It proves that some places are erased not just from maps, but from the very surface of the earth, hidden in the stratigraphy. The Ciudad Blanca, the white city of the monkey god. Deep in the unexplored rainforests of the Mosquitia region of Honduras, conquistadors heard indigenous tales of La Ciudad Blanca, a white-walled city of immense wealth, abandoned after a curse. For 5 centuries, it was the great phantom of Central American exploration, a tropical El Dorado that consumed adventurers. It was drawn on maps as a vast, blank region labeled City of the Monkey God. Its discovery was a triumph of modern technology over impenetrable jungle. In 2012, using airborne LiDAR, light detection and ranging, which strips away the forest canopy digitally, a team led by documentary filmmakers and archaeologists identified the unmistakable geometrical shapes of a large, pre-Columbian settlement. Ground expeditions confirmed a vast, untouched ceremonial city, with plazas, pyramids, and carved stone vessels left in situ. This was not one city, but part of a lost civilization, now called the Kaha Kamasa culture. Its erasure was not violent, but ecological. The complex societies of the region likely collapsed due to a combination of environmental degradation and the arrival of old-world diseases ahead of the Spanish themselves. The jungle, with breathtaking speed, reclaimed the stone with roots and vines. The transformation here is from a singular myth to a sprawling, newly discovered archaeological reality. It rewrites the history of pre-Columbian Central America, revealing sophisticated societies in areas long thought to be peripheral. It shows that the final, most effective eraser is not sand or sea, but the relentless, green hunger of the rainforest. The sunken palace of Cleopatra. For centuries, the royal quarter of Alexandria, the seat of the Ptolemaic dynasty and home to Cleopatra VII, was thought to be lost forever, either crumbled into the Mediterranean seabed or buried under the modern city. Ancient sources described its splendor: the palace complex, the Temple of Isis, the famous library annex, and the site of Antony and Cleopatra's dramatic suicides. After their defeat, the Romans repurposed the area, and a series of earthquakes and tsunamis in the 4th and 8th centuries CE caused large sections of the ancient coastline, including the island of Antihodos where the palace stood, to subside. The discovery began in the 1990 seconds, led by marine archaeologist Frank Goddio. Using sophisticated sonar and working in the murky, polluted waters of Alexandria's eastern harbour, his team began to map a stunning underwater landscape. They found colossal statues of Ptolemaic kings and queens, sphinxes, obelisks, and the foundations of monumental buildings, the scattered debris of the royal precinct. This was not a structured ruin, but a jumbled museum of the seafloor, preserved in the anaerobic silt. The erasure of Cleopatra's palace was a slow-motion catastrophe of natural disasters and urban overbuilding. Its transformation is from a historical setting into an aquatic ghost town. Its recovery, piece by colossal piece, is a resurrection of the final, dramatic chapter of Hellenistic Egypt, pulling the very stones of Cleopatra's world from the darkness, proving that some of history's most iconic places lie just beneath the waves, in the silent custody of the sea. The Lost Legion of the Teutoburg Forest. In 9 CE, 3 Roman legions, XVI, XVII, and XIMX, led by Publius Quinctilius Varus, marched into the dense, rain-sodden forests of Germania. They were ambushed and annihilated in a 3-day battle by a Germanic alliance under Arminius. Approximately 20,000 men were slaughtered. The Emperor Augustus, upon hearing the news, was said to have wandered his palace, crying, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." The defeat was so total, so traumatic, that the numbers of the lost legions, XVIII, XVIII, XIII, were never used again in the Roman army. The exact location of the battle, the Clades Variana, Varian disaster, was lost. The site's rediscovery is a modern detective story. Based on clues from Roman historians, the amateur archaeologist Major Tony Clun, working with metal detectors near Kalkriese, Germany, in the late 1980 seconds, found a staggering concentration of Roman coins and military equipment. Full-scale excavations revealed a funnel-shaped landscape with a prepared earthen rampart, mass graves, and a field littered with the detritus of an army being destroyed. Bent spearheads, fragments of armor, and the grim Mask of Kalkriese, a ceremonial cavalry helmet. This was the killing field. The erasure here was dual: the physical annihilation of the army and the deliberate Roman suppression of the memory of the location out of shame. Its discovery transforms a historical footnote into a visceral, archaeological crime scene. It marks the limit of Roman imperial ambition and the birth of a Germanic identity, a place where the map of Europe was decisively redrawn in mud and blood. The Viking settlement of Hop. The Norse sagas tell of Leif Erikson's discovery of a land he called Vinland, somewhere along the northeastern coast of North America around 1000 CE. Later sagas mention a specific settlement named Hop, characterized by a lagoon, sandy beaches, and stands of wild grapes. For centuries, Vinland was semi-mythical, and Hop an unidentified point on a lost map. The discovery of the Norse settlement at Lansor Meadows in Newfoundland in 1960 by Helge and Anstein Ingstad proved the Viking presence in the New World. But was this Hop? Lansor Meadows was a base camp for exploration and repair, not the idyllic Hop described. The search for Hop has led archaeologists to examine sites further south into the Gulf of Street, Lawrence and the New England coast, where wild grapes, Vitis labrusca, actually grow. While no definitive site has been found, tantalizing but controversial evidence like the Point Rosy anomalies in southern Newfoundland and the disputed Newport Tower in Rhode Island keep the search alive. Hop's erasure was likely a result of abandonment. The Norse presence in North America was brief, probably lasting only a few decades due to conflict with indigenous peoples, the Skraelings, and the immense logistical strain. The houses rotted, the turf walls slumped, and the forest reclaimed the clearings. Its transformation is from a saga location to the ultimate archaeological grail in North America. It represents a road not taken, a fleeting moment of transatlantic contact that failed, leaving only a ghost of a settlement in the historical record. A blank spot on the map that holds the potential to rewrite the pre-Columbian history of a continent. The Library of the Moscow Tsars. In the 15th century, Sophia Paleologina, niece of the last Byzantine emperor, married Ivan III of Moscow. Her dowry was said to include a priceless treasure, a vast collection of ancient Greek and Latin manuscripts salvaged from the fall of Constantinople, potentially including lost works of antiquity. This legendary Library of the Moscow Tsars, or Lost Library of Ivan the Terrible, entered the realm of rumor, a Slavic equivalent of the Library of Alexandria, hidden away in secret Kremlin vaults or underground tunnels. For centuries, treasure hunters and scholars have searched for it, following cryptic clues in old documents. Expeditions have scoured the Kremlin's foundations, the Alexander suburb, and even the tunnels beneath the Arbat. Nothing conclusive has ever been found. The most likely truth is that the library, if it existed as a discrete, grand collection, was dispersed over time, its books absorbed into other monastic and state libraries, their provenance forgotten. Its erasure, therefore, it was likely one of bureaucratic assimilation and loss of catalogue, not physical destruction. This story transforms from a hunt for a hidden chamber to a meditation on the nature of knowledge itself. The lost library becomes a powerful myth of potential, a ghost of all the lost texts of the classical world, a symbol of the hope that somewhere, somehow, they might still exist. It is an erasure defined by its persistent, haunting possibility. The Canal of the Pharaohs. Ancient historians like Herodotus and Strabo wrote of a grand attempt by the pharaohs to connect the Nile River to the Red Sea, a direct canal bypassing the arduous overland route. They reported that Pharaoh Necho II, 610–595 BCE, began the work, which was said to have cost the lives of 120,000 labourers, but abandoned it after an oracle's warning. The Persian king Darius I later claimed to have completed it. For centuries, the Canal of the Pharaohs was considered a semi-legendary megaproject, its trace lost to the shifting sands of the eastern desert. Its discovery has been fragmentary and scientific. Satellite imagery and geological surveys have revealed a faint, linear depression running from the Pelusiac branch of the Nile eastwards. Archaeological work has uncovered ancient stone stelae erected by Darius I near the modern Suez Canal, boasting of the canal's completion. The evidence suggests it was not a continuous waterway like the modern Suez, but a clever combination of canal segments linking a chain of existing bitter lakes, which were then connected to the Red Sea. Its erasure was due to neglect and silting. After the decline of Persian and Ptolemaic power, maintaining the channel against the desert sands became uneconomical. It filled in, its course forgotten, becoming just another dry wadi. The transformation here is from a Herodotean tale of hubris to a verified feat of ancient engineering. It shows that the ancients conceived of and nearly achieved a project that would only be realized millennia later, and that the desert can erase not just cities, but the very ambition to reshape a continent. The silent stones of Great Zimbabwe. When European explorers in the late 19th century encountered the immense, dry stone ruins of Great Zimbabwe in southern Africa, their prejudice could not accept an African origin. They concocted theories of Phoenician, Arab, or even King Solomon's mines. This was a deliberate, racist erasure of history, an attempt to remove a magnificent achievement from the map of African accomplishment. The vast complex of walls, towers, and enclosures was attributed to mysterious, non-black foreigners. The true discovery of Great Zimbabwe was an act of archaeological and political reclamation. Systematic work in the 20th century, led by researchers like Gertrude Caton Thompson, definitively proved its indigenous origin, dating its peak to the Kingdom of Zimbabwe, c. 1100 to 1450 CE, a powerful state that controlled gold trade from the interior to the Swahili coast. The stonework was purely local, the artifacts were Bantu, and the site's layout reflected Shona cosmology. The erasure, attempted by colonial minds, was overturned. The transformation of Great Zimbabwe is thus a meta-story about historical erasure itself. It went from being a misplaced icon on a false map of white colonial history to its rightful place as the heart of a sophisticated African empire. Its stones, once silenced by misinterpretation, now speak powerfully of a continent's rich and autonomous past, proving that the most pernicious erasures are often those committed not by time, but by ideology. The Maze of Minos, the labyrinth's lost floor plan. Before the term labyrinth became a metaphor, it was a specific, terrifying place. The prison of the Minotaur, built by the genius Daedalus for King Minos of Crete. Greek myth described it as an inescapable maze beneath the palace. For centuries, it was pure fantasy. Then, in 1900, Sir Arthur Evans began excavating a massive Bronze Age complex at Knossos. He uncovered a bewildering multi-story palace with hundreds of rooms, twisting corridors, and sudden light wells, a layout so complex it seemed designed to disorient. Evans boldly declared he had found the labyrinth. He restored parts with concrete, colouring our imagination of Minoan Crete. But the discovery was also a creation. Evans's reconstruction is now controversial. His confident identifications of throne rooms and religious areas are debated. The true palace was likely a grand administrative and ritual centre, its layout organic, not designed as a maze. The mythical labyrinth was an erasure of a different kind, the simplification and mythologizing of a sophisticated civilization by later Greeks. The Minoan world, already a half-remembered ghost after its collapse, was transformed by Athenian storytellers into a land of monsters and maze keepers. The discovery of the real Knossos didn't find the labyrinth. It revealed the reality that was erased to create the myth. The transformation is a loop. A real place, a complex palace, is forgotten, then reimagined as a symbolic space, the maze, and then that symbol is mistakenly mapped back onto the real ruins. It shows how history can be erased by the very stories we tell to remember it. The island of Thera's missing heart. Today, Santorini is a breathtaking crescent island embracing a deep blue caldera. This dramatic geography is the scar of one of history's most violent volcanic explosions. Before the late Bronze Age eruption around 1600 BCE, Thera was likely a single, large island, possibly circular, and home to a thriving Minoan-style settlement at Akhetaten. That society, with its exquisite frescoes and multi-story buildings, was frozen in time by pumice and ash, then entombed. The eruption didn't just bury a town. It obliterated the island's central mass, causing it to collapse into the emptied magma chamber, which then flooded with seawater. The heart of Thera was physically erased from the map, replaced by a void. The discovery of this lost world began with quarrymen in the 1860s, finding ancient walls under the pumice. Systematic excavation of Akhetaten since 1967 has revealed a Pompeii of the Aegean, a snapshot of a sophisticated, elegant society preserved at the moment of evacuation. But the central, most populated part of the pre-eruption island now lies under hundreds of meters of water in the caldera's center, unreachable. The erasure here is geological, absolute, and double-layered, first by ash, then by the sea. The transformation of Thera is foundational. The cataclysm likely devastated Minoan Crete, with tsunamis and climate change contributing to its decline. It also seeded legends. The destruction of this advanced island society may be the core truth behind Plato's tale of Atlantis. Thera teaches that a place can be so utterly unmade that its true form exists only in geological models and human imagination. A ghost island defined by its stunning absence. The sunken forest of Doggerland. The North Sea, today a tempestuous highway of commerce, was once a vast, low-lying continent. As the last ice age ended and glaciers melted, sea levels rose. But for millennia, a fertile land bridge named Doggerland connected Britain to mainland Europe. It was a rich landscape of hills, rivers, marshes, and forests, inhabited by Mesolithic hunters following migrating herds. Its slow drowning, from about 18,000 to 5,500 BCE, was one of the most significant, yet invisible, events in human prehistory, the erasure of an entire continent from the map. Its discovery is a modern tale of fishing nets and seismic surveys. For over a century, fishermen trawling the Dogger Bank have hauled up prehistoric animal bones, antler tools, and even human artifacts. In the 21st century, advanced seabed mapping by oil companies and scientific projects like Europe's Lost Frontiers have charted its drowned rivers, lakes, and coastlines with stunning clarity. They've even recovered ancient tree stumps, peat, and pollen from the seafloor. Doggerland's end was not a single event, but a relentless, generations-long retreat before the rising waters, culminating in a final catastrophic tsunami around 6,150 BCE from the Storegga slide off Norway. Its transformation is profound. The drowning of Doggerland physically isolated the British Isles, forever altering the cultural and genetic trajectory of northwest Europe. It turned a shared homeland into a separate island identity. This lost land, now just a name on nautical charts, reminds us that the maps we think are permanent are mere snapshots in geological time, and that the most familiar seas hide the most profound absences. The silent citadel of the Hittites, Hattusa's deliberate burial. The Hittite Empire was the rival of New Kingdom Egypt, a Bronze Age superpower whose laws, diplomacy, and chariot armies shaped the ancient Near East. Its heart was the capital, Hattusa, a sprawling, fortified city of cyclopean stone walls and monumental gateways in the high, wind-swept plains of central Anatolia. Around 1200 BCE, amidst the wider Bronze Age collapse, the empire imploded. Hattusa was not simply conquered, it was meticulously, ceremoniously abandoned. The royal archives, thousands of clay tablets detailing everything from state treaties to mundane livestock records, were baked in intentional fires and then carefully buried within the citadel. The gates were sealed. The gods were taken. The city was left to the mountain winds. This was not a rout, it was a planned termination. Its rediscovery in the 19th century began with chance inscriptions, but the systematic excavation by Hugo Winkler, and later the German Archaeological Institute, revealed the staggering scale of the capital and, crucially, the intact state archive. The moment of discovery was one of deciphering silence. The tablets were found not scattered in panic, but placed in orderly rows, a library interred with its own civilization. The erasure of Hattusa was an act of self-administered memory. Facing an unstoppable collapse from invasion, famine, and internal fracture, the last Hittite rulers chose to archive their own history and then vanish from the stage. They erased their living presence to preserve their written legacy. The transformation is deeply ironic. By burying their world, they ensured its resurrection 3 millennia later. Hattusa's ghostly libraries gave us the voice of the Hittites, proving that sometimes a civilization's final act is not to build a monument, but to become one, a time capsule sealed by its own hand. The phantom rivers of the Garamantes. In the hyper-arid expanse of the Libyan Sahara, the idea of a powerful, urban civilization seems impossible. Yet, the Greek historian Herodotus wrote of the Garamantes, a people who lived in the land of the sands and hunted Ethiopian troglodytes from chariots. They were dismissed as mythical desert nomads. Their discovery rewrote the map of Africa. From the 1960 seconds onward, aerial photography and satellite imagery revealed a startling sight. The faint, ghostly traces of hundreds of miles of underground irrigation channels, Fogara, radiating from ancient oases like Gurma. On the ground, archaeologists found the remains of mud-brick towns, fortified settlements, and elite tombs. The Garamantes were not nomads. They were ingenious hydraulic engineers who tapped fossil water from an aquifer, creating a green, agricultural kingdom in the heart of the desert from 500 BCE to 500 CE. Their erasure was an environmental tragedy of their own success. Over centuries, they drained the ancient aquifer faster than it could recharge. The wells ran dry, the Fogara clogged with sand, and the desert they had held at bay reclaimed its own. Their cities were not sacked, they were simply emptied, their people likely dispersing to other oases or being absorbed by nomadic groups. The transformation here is from myth to cautionary tale. The Garamantes discovered that the most profound maps are not of surface features, but of hidden water. Their civilization was erased when that hidden map was exhausted. They stand as a testament to human adaptation and its ultimate limits, a lost kingdom that serves as a stark, ancient prophecy for any society built on a finite resource. The vanished watchtowers of the Gorgon. On the remote, storm-lashed island of Street Kilda, west of the Scottish Hebrides, the last inhabitants were evacuated in 1930. But local lore spoke of an even more distant place, a cluster of rocks or islets farther into the Atlantic, seen only in rare clarity and marked on some medieval charts as the Gorgon or the Green Island of the Bride. It was a seafarer's phantom, a navigational hazard that appeared and vanished. Its discovery was its dissolution. As maritime charts became precise, surveys conclusively proved no such substantial landmass existed in the location described. The leading theory is that the Gorgon was a persistent mirage, a superior mirage that magnified and lifted the distant street, Kilda, archipelago, or even the occasional iceberg from Greenland into view, creating the illusion of new land. Its erasure was an act of optical and cartographic correction. The island was removed from the Admiralty charts, its existence relegated to the category of optical illusion and folklore. The transformation of the Gorgon is from a physical danger on a map to a psychological phenomenon. It represents the final purging of perceptual error from our atlas. In an age of GPS, there is no room for islands that exist only in certain lights. Its story is a melancholic farewell to the last vestiges of uncertainty in navigation, a reminder that our maps have lost not only places, but also the mysteries that made the sea a realm of wonder and dread. The subterranean city of Derinkuyu's sealed gates. In the heart of the Cappadocian Plateau in Turkey, the soft volcanic rock known as tuff is famous for fairy chimneys and cave churches. But in 1963, a resident of Derinkuyu, renovating his home, knocked down a wall and discovered a passage leading into darkness. It opened into a vast, multi-level subterranean city, descending over 200 feet. It was not a natural cave system, but a meticulously carved refuge, complete with ventilation shafts, wells, wine presses, stables, churches, and schools, a world built not upward, but downward. It could have housed up to 20,000 people. Its construction likely began in the 7th or 8th century BCE by the Phrygians, but was expanded over millennia, most notably by early Christians and Byzantines fleeing Arab raids. The discovery was not of a lost city, but of a hidden one, a place designed to be erased from the surface map. Its very purpose was invisibility. The erasure was intentional and tactical. When danger approached, the population would vanish underground, rolling massive millstone-shaped doors across the entrances, blending seamlessly back into the rocky hillside. The transformation here is of a community becoming its own ghost. Derinkuyu represents the ultimate defensive strategy, not to fortify a place on the map, but to remove the community from the map entirely. It is a monument to resilience through disappearance, proving that survival sometimes means erasing yourself until the danger passes, living not in the landscape, but within it. The last trace of the Sarmatians. The Eurasian steppe was a rolling sea of grass, the engine of nomadic empires. Among them were the Sarmatians, a confederation of Iranian-speaking tribes who dominated the lands north of the Black Sea from the 5th century BCE to the 4th century CE. Fierce, heavily armoured cavalry who may have inspired the Arthurian legends of knights, they were a constant pressure on Rome's frontiers. Then they were absorbed, displaced, and assimilated by the westward surge of the Goths and Huns. They left no cities, no written records. Their erasure from history was nearly total. Their discovery has been piecemeal and poignant. It comes from the excavation of their Kurgans burial mounds, scattered across Ukraine and southern Russia. Within these mounds, archaeologists find the traces of a vibrant, mobile culture. Intricate gold jewelry in an unmistakable animal style, scale armor made of hoof or bone, weapons, and the skeletons of horses sacrificed for the afterlife. The most powerful discovery is not of kings, but of warrior women. Tall skeletons buried with lances, bows, and armor, providing the archaeological basis for the Greek legends of the Amazons, whom they associated with the Sarmatians. Their transformation is from a historical footnote to a recovered identity. The Sarmatians were not erased, they were metabolized. Their cavalry tactics influenced later European warfare. Their artistic motifs flowed into the art of the migration period. Their silent, mound-studded grasslands are a map of a different kind, not of settlements but of journeys ended. They teach us that a people can vanish from the political map, yet persist in the genetic, cultural, and legendary fabric of the continents they roamed. The drowned villages of the Persian Gulf Basin. Long before the Sumerians built Uruk, before the first cities, the Persian Gulf was not a gulf at all. At the peak of the last ice age, it was a fertile, watered basin, a gulf oasis, fed by the Tigris, Euphrates, Karun, and Wadi Baton rivers, which joined to form a single Ur-Shat river flowing through the valley to the Strait of Hormuz. As sea levels were over 120 meters lower, this was a vast, habitable land. Around 14,000 years ago, as glaciers melted, the Indian Ocean began to pour in through the strait. The inundation was relentless, swallowing over 100,000 square kilometers of land, forcing a continuous, centuries-long human retreat. This drowned world is the ultimate lost map. Its discovery is indirect, a ghost sensed in the archaeology of its edges. The sudden appearance of sophisticated Ubaid period pottery and settlement patterns in southern Mesopotamia around 7,500 years ago suggests an influx of people with a mature culture, likely refugees from the final stages of the flooding. Seismic surveys of the Gulf floor have revealed ancient river channels and potential settlement sites now under 40 meters of water. The erasure of the Gulf oasis was a slow-motion, existential cataclysm that likely compressed diverse populations into the shrinking river valleys of Mesopotamia, providing the demographic catalyst for the invention of irrigation, cities, and civilization itself. Its transformation is foundational. The drowned paradise may be the primordial Dilmun of Sumerian myth, and its loss the deep cultural memory of a great flood. It teaches that our first civilizations may have been born not from a blank slate, but from the trauma of a disappearing world. The Library of Pergamum's vacated shelves. In the Hellenistic age, the Library of Pergamum in Asia Minor was a beacon of learning second only to Alexandria. It was said to hold 200,000 scrolls, a treasure that so threatened the Ptolemies in Egypt they allegedly embargoed papyrus exports, spurring the Pergamenes to perfect parchment, pergamena. This was not just a repository, but an intellectual engine of a powerful kingdom. Yet, today, no scrolls remain. Its great halls are silent. The library's fate is a story of erasure by gift and theft. According to Plutarch, Mark Antony famously gave the entire library, or a vast portion of it, to Cleopatra in 41 BCE as a gift to restock the burned library of Alexandria. Whether this massive transfer actually occurred is debated, but the symbolic act is powerful. The soul of Pergamum was shipped to its rival. Later, after the kingdom's annexation by Rome, the remaining collections were likely dispersed. The physical building itself was repurposed, its niches for scrolls left empty, its identity fading. The discovery of the library is architectural. Excavations at the Acropolis of Pergamon, modern Bergama, Turkey, have revealed the grand, rectangular complex adjacent to the Temple of Athena. The central reading room, with its soaring height, designed for climate control, can be walked today, but it is a shell. The erasure here is one of relocation and dissipation. The knowledge was not destroyed but scattered, its physical home rendered a monument to absence. The transformation is from a vibrant center of thought to an architectural ghost. It stands as a reminder that ideas can outlive their containers, and that the greatest libraries can be erased not by fire, but by the gentler, more complete forces of political whim and the slow entropy of neglect. The terraced gardens of the Bamiyan Buddhas. For over 1,500 years, two colossal Buddha statues, 55 and 38 meters tall, stood hewn into the sandstone cliffs of the Bamiyan Valley in Afghanistan. They were not solitary monuments, but the centerpiece of a vast, monastic complex, a Silk Road crossroads, where Indian, Persian, and Hellenistic art fused. Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang in the 7th century described them draped in gold and surrounded by a warren of caves painted with vibrant frescoes, inhabited by thousands of monks. This was a living map of Buddhist devotion carved into a mountain. Its deliberate erasure was televised. In March 2001, the Taliban, decreeing them idols, spent weeks with artillery, tanks, and finally dynamite, reducing the giants to piles of rubble. The world watched, helpless, as history was unmade in real time. The discovery of what was truly lost came later. In the shattered niches, archaeologists found something astonishing. The world's oldest known oil paintings, techniques from Greece and China mingling on the walls. They also found evidence that the statues were once brightly painted, and that the niches were part of a sophisticated architectural and acoustic design. The erasure was an act of ideological purification, a violent correction of the cultural map. But the transformation holds a strange paradox. The voids themselves have become powerful new symbols of loss, of resilience, of the futility of trying to erase memory. The empty niches now frame the sky, a negative space more potent than the positive forms they once held. The story of Bamiyan is the most modern form of erasure, proving that in our age, a place can be deleted from the world's cultural map not by sand or sea, but by a command over a crackling radio. The Whispering Gallery of the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. One of the seven wonders of the ancient world, the magnificent tomb built for Mausolus, satrap of Caria, in Halicarnassus, modern Bodrum, Turkey, stood for nearly 1,700 years. A soaring pyramid of marble steps, topped by a colossal chariot, it was so famous it gave its name to all future grand tombs. Earthquakes in the 12th to 15th centuries finally toppled it. Its final erasure was methodical and pragmatic. In the late 1400s, the Knights of Street John, fortifying their castle against the Ottomans, quarried the ruins for stone. They burned the magnificent marble statues and reliefs to make lime for mortar. The very memory of its precise form grew faint. Its modern discovery was a process of literary and fragmentary reassembly. In 1856, Charles Newton, of the British Museum, identified the site and conducted excavations, retrieving surviving sculptures, now jewels of the British Museum, and clarifying the ground plan. But the discovery is one of profound loss. We have the fragments and descriptions, but the wonder itself is gone, cannibalized to build a fortress of a different faith and culture. The erasure was a double act. Nature began the work, and man completed it, recycling one civilization's ultimate monument to build another's bulwark. The transformation is from a universal symbol of splendor to a collection of dislocated museum pieces and an empty, scoured foundation. It stands as a metaphor for history itself. We piece together understanding from shattered remnants, knowing the whole, the awe, the scale, the whispered prayers in its gallery is a ghost we can describe, but never truly summon back. The unmarked graves of the first Americans. For millennia, the story of the first human entry into the Americas was a cartographic certainty, across the Bering Land Bridge, down an ice-free corridor between retreating glaciers, and into a virgin continent around 13,000 years ago. These people were the Clovis first culture, identified by their distinctive spear points. Their map was clear. Then, the discoveries began to erase that map. Sites like Monteverde in Chile, reliably dated to 14,500 years ago, proved people were south of the ice sheets before the corridor opened. Other sites hinted at pre-Clovis presence. The paradigm shattered. The new map is murky, showing potential coastal migrations along a kelp highway from Beringia, perhaps 16,000 years ago or more, leaving traces now submerged by rising seas. The discovery is ongoing and revolutionary, written in mitochondrial DNA, in ancient coprolites, in stone tools found in drowned landscapes. The erasure here is of a scientific certainty. The clean, simple map of human migration was scrubbed away, replaced by a complex, messy, and largely invisible story of multiple waves, lost routes, and sunken coastal campsites. The transformation is humbling. We are losing the clear narrative and gaining a profound mystery. The true first Americans left no grand monuments for this era. They left ephemeral camps and scattered tools, their journeys erased by 400 feet of Pacific Ocean rise. Their story now lies in the darkest blank spaces on our maps, the submerged continental shelves. It is a reminder that the deepest past is often the most thoroughly erased, and that the first chapters of the human story in any land are often written in water. The conclusion. A modern, softly lit study at night. A globe sits on a desk. A hand reaches out and gently spins it. It blurs into a whirl of blue and green, then slows. We spin the globe now, and every name is fixed. Every mountain range has a label, every sea a boundary. We believe the map is complete, but history is not the land. It is the memory of the light that once fell upon it. It is the footprint in the mud that hardened to stone, and then was ground back to dust. These 25 places were not accidents. They were choices. Choices of a king to shatter a heresy. Choices of a priest to bury a library whole. Choices of the earth to shrug. or the sea to rise. Choice is to walk away and let the forest swallow the story. The haunting thought is not that they are gone. It is that we live atop a palimpsest, a parchment scraped clean and written over, again and again. Our cities are built on the blank spots where other cities once dreamed. Our roads follow the ghosts of older paths, the silence in the desert, the stillness in the deep sea. These are not emptiness. They are the echo. So when you look at a map and see a blank space, a stretch of desert, a depth of ocean, an unmarked forest, do not see nothing. See the places we have not yet remembered. See the debris of moments when everything changed. For every erased name on a map means a world that once was, and in its vanishing shaped the world that is. And perhaps the most profound erasure of all is the one happening now, unnoticed, that some future narrator will one day strain to hear in the silence we leave behind. The globe comes to a stop. The camera focuses on a vast, blue expanse of ocean. Hold for a beat in the quiet.